Hello everybody, Eric again. Like and subscribe. There we go. Let's read about Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Hope is the Thing with Feathers is a lyric poem and ballad measure by American poet Emily Dickinson. The poem's manuscript appears in Fascicle 13, which Dickinson compiled around 1861. It is one of 19 poems in the collection. Dickinson's poem, There is a Certain Slant of Light, is also in this collection, with the discovery of Fascicle 13 after Dickinson's death by her sister, Lavinia Dickinson. Hope is the Thing with Feathers was published in 1891 in a collection of her works under the title Poems, which was edited and published by Thomas Wentworth Higginson and Mabel Loomis Todd. History of publication. Hope is the Thing with Feathers was first compiled in one of Dickinson's hand-sewn fascicles, which was written during and put together in 1861. In the 1999 edition of the Poems of Emily Dickinson, reading edition, R. W. Franklin changed the year of appearance from 1861, where the holograph manuscript exists, to 1862, according to the Empedix. Dickinson wrote 227 poems, numbered 272 to 498 in 1862, the third most she wrote in a single year between 1860 and 1865. The edition that Dickinson included in the fascicle was Text B, according to Franklin. No current holograph manuscript exists of the poem's first written version. Hope is the Thing with Feathers first appeared in print in the Poems by Emily Dickinson, second series in 1891. It was published by Roberts Brothers in Boston. In 1955, Thomas H. Johnson reassessed and transcribed Dickinson's poems, producing the first scholarly collection of her work. Johnson's transcription of her works from her fascicles was taken from their earliest fair copies. In Johnson's collection, Hope is the Thing with Feathers is poem number 254. Franklin's edition used the last fair copies. It is number 314 in his collection, and is so labeled in the North Anthology of Poetry. Close transcript. Hope is the Thing with Feathers, the purchase of the soul, and sings the tune without the word, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm. That curdle bush, the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land, and on the strangest sea. Yet never, in extremity, it asked a crumb of me. First published version. Hope. Hope is the Thing with Feathers, that purchase in the soul. It sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm. That kept a bush, the little bird, that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land, and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Fascicle 13. Fascicle 13 is the bound edition of Dickinson's written poetry that contains Hope is the Thing with Feathers in her hand. Franklin found similarities in the materials used for this fascicle in fascicles 9 and 11 to 14. Fascicle 13's distinctive markers include a woven style of stationery with paper that is prim and apparent with a blue wool line on it. It also is decorated in an embossed style that frames the page with the Queen's head above the letter L. Harvard University's Halton Library houses the holograph manuscript. Analysis. According to literary critic Helen Wendler, the poem's opening foot is reversed, adding more color and emphasis on the word hope. Dickinson uses iambic meter throughout the poem to replicate that of Hope's song through time. Most of Dickinson's poetry contains quatrains and runs in a hymnometer, which maintains the rhythm of alternating between 4 beats and 3 beats during each stanza. Hope is the Thing with Feathers is broken into 3 stanzas, each containing alternating lines of iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter, totaling 12 lines. Form. In Victoria Ann Morgan's Emily Dickinson and Time Culture, Tradition and Experience, she wrote that Dickinson's poetry may have been influenced by 18th century Heim culture, such as Isaac Ratz and Hymnal Whiters, Phoebe Hinsdale Brown, and Eliza Leaf Bolin. Morgan postulates that their works were introduced to Dickinson early in her life, when she attended church regularly. She believes that the simplicity of the hymnal form allowed Dickinson to make this an easy target for parody. Theme of poem. The poem calls upon the imagery of seafaring adventures with the use of the words sea and gale. Dickinson uses the metaphor of hope as a bird that does not disappear when it encounters hardships or storms. Vendler wrote that Dickinson enjoys the stimulus of teasing riddles, as seen when she plays with the idea of hope as a bird. Dickinson alludes to hope as something that does not disappear when the gale and storm get worse and worse. Song persists despite the intensity of whatever is attempting to unseat it. She also says that no matter what the speaker of the poem is doing, hope does not leave, even if they offer nothing in return to it. Punctuation. Dickinson uses dashes liberally in the poem, ending 9 lines with them. She also capitalized common nouns such as hope, bird, and extremity. Scholar Ina John writes that Dickinson's dashes are among the most widely contested diacriticals in contemporary literary discussions. In his poetry handbook, John Leonard writes that Dickinson's poems rely heavily on her use of dashes, capitalization, in line, and stanza breaks. He says her intense and unexpected play with capitalization and dashes makes her poetry memorable. Read aloud, the dashes create crescera, giving the poem a staccato rhythm. Jung says Dickinson's use of dashes creates a visible breath for the speaker of the poetry. Symbolism. Dickinson describes hope as a bird, a metaphor for salvation. She has 9 variations of the word hope, which can be interpreted in multiple ways. Morgan writes that Dickinson often writes about birds when describing acts of worship, which coincides with the format of the hymn. Birds in Christian iconography are often doves. Dickinson often alludes to nature in her poems. In this poem, the bird and the violent weather create a balance between the destructive and the beneficent. The poem also juxtaposes the interior and exterior worlds of the soul interior and the storm's exterior. Critical reception. Dickinson's poems are considered mysterious and enigmatic and typically have a volta or turn in topic at the end, as in Because I Could Not Stop for Death. Hope is the Thing with Feathers has a similar quality, but some critics consider it childlike in its simplicity. Vendler notes that Dickinson's quatrains and hymnometer can be seen as simplistic. Morgan argues that because of Dickinson's antagonistic relation with 19th century Christianity, the poet gives a reassessment of spirituality through this poem with the image of the bird and the Christian conception of hope. Derivative works. Hope is the Thing with Feathers has been set to music many times. One musical adaptation is Susan Labar's for women's choir and piano. Other musical settings are by Robert Sieving, Emma Low-Demmer, Paul Cowley, David Banal, and Christopher Tan. The alternative country band Trailer Bride's final album is Hope is a Thing with Feathers, a variant of the poem's first line. The album's title track is an adaptation of the poem, and Dickinson receives a writing credit. Bye for now.